Our goals for today, we're going to be focusing primarily on like eco buys, when to do them, and the engagements that you should take when you are doing an eco buy. So sometimes you'll be buying for like you'll be buying with an eco. You won't have enough money to full buy, and then you'll be going against a team that is full bot. And in this situation, you're not going to want to take the same engagements that you normally would. So we're going to go into that in the second game. But for the first game, I wrote down goals for us. And our goals for the first game, particularly, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about crutch weapons, which is similar to ecos. That's going to be crutch weapons would be stuff like the Spectre, stuff like the Stinger, weapons like that. We're also going to talk about why the Phantom is better than the Spectre or the Stinger. So we're going to explain why these weapons are crutch weapons. And then also why it's important to buy with your team, because I think that's something that a lot of people maybe don't understand. They'll kind of buy all the time. They'll force buy when they won't have enough money to do a full buy. And I think that it's good to talk about for players. So we're going to get into that. We're rolling into the third round right now. And our friend Cairo, for the first 2 rounds, he bought very light. And the reason that I thought that he was buying very light, for the first round, he didn't buy armor. He bought 2 teleports. And for the second round, he bought only a frenzy. And then for the third round, I figured the reason that there was such a light buy, he didn't spend a lot of money, is because he wanted to full buy for the third round. And going into the third round, you'll notice rather than buying a rifle or anything, he ends up making the decision to buy a Spectre, which is a thing that a lot of like lower rank and like newer players will do. Just for the reasoning that like these SMGs feel easier. A lot of the times I feel like players maybe get kills with these SMGs, and they feel like, well, I get more kills with like a Spectre, or I get more kills with a Stinger, so realistically it's my better gun, so I should run the Stinger, which is not bad logic, right? That makes sense that somebody would be thinking that, right? I think unfortunately he doesn't actually get as punished as he could have from this round. You'll notice that his teammate does get picked here, and he goes for this Phantom pickup.
Can you smoke,
but it's like a really weird situation at this point where it's like he could have just purchased the Phantom and then his team would have been at full strength, right? It doesn't turn out poorly for him. He actually saved a little bit of money by letting his teammate die and then going to take their Phantom. But when you're using a weapon like the Stinger or the Spectre, you are using a crutch weapon. And that is not a good thing, not like a clutch weapon, like where it's like good to clutch. It is a crutch weapon for the reasoning that if you are using this gun, you are deliberately placing yourself at a disadvantage over your enemies.
What'd you say?
When you're using a Spectre or when you're using the Phantom or like the Vandal or something, you train yourself to aim for headshots. You train yourself to like be a better player, right? When you're using a Stinger, you're generally just like spraying and looking to get those like free kills and stuff. When you use a Stinger, you just like you build like stupid tendencies, like making sure that you're not moving when you're shooting, movement and everything. You don't learn how to counter strike when you're using like a Spectre or a Stinger. That's not something I'm going to like be practicing. But when I'm using like a Vandal, you can get good at it. You can get good at your accuracy and everything. You don't get better at like this kind of stuff when you're using a Stinger, right? This isn't something that I like commonly practice when I'm using a gun like this. So by using a Stinger or a Spectre, you're kind of just handicapping yourself and making sure that you don't improve at the game in the way that you should be, right? You should be aiming for these headshots. You should be trying to get those one taps and everything within this game. You should be focusing on crosshair placement. And when you're using a gun like the Stinger or the Spectre, you kind of throw that all out the window. Even more to an extent like the Bucky too, right? When you're using shotguns, a lot of the times you're not going to be aiming in the same way. And shotguns can be good, but if you're buying a shotgun every single round, that's not going to be good for you as a player, right? If you are a player who purchases the Spectre very frequently, and you will oftentimes purchase it over the Phantom, I really want to push you in the direction of buying the Phantom instead. And the reasoning for that is the Phantom is basically just the Spectre, but better in almost every single way. It's just more expensive, right? So, loading into this game, you'll notice the Spectre's damage, it'll do 78 to the head within 20 meters. So we're going to buy this here. 78, if they have full armor, that'll do 78 there. 2 taps is going to be 156. So it'll take 2 hits to the head to kill them from this range, right? With the Phantom, it's just going to take 1 hit to kill them. It'll do the same amount of damage in 1 bullet. You'll move them beyond that. You'll 20 to 50 meters. So we'll push them this far away. You'll hit him for 132 from this range. So look, I'm not super far away from this guy, but I'm like a decent distance. Me tapping this guy twice. Sorry, that was within 20 meters. Me tapping this guy twice is not going to kill him. I've hit this guy twice in the head, which is kind of difficult to do, honestly, with the Spectre. And he's still not going to die. I need to hit this guy 3 times to kill him in the head. With the Phantom from this range, at least twice is going to kill this guy, right? Or when you hit the hit punch, you're gonna kind of pull down on it. You're gonna kill this guy very quickly, right? It's just gonna do more damage. And the Phantom's not even necessarily harder to control at this range. It's probably a lot easier to control than the Spectre at this range, right? Notice the bullets are going all over the place. This is very difficult to control from this range. Or like at the Phantom, you can kind of get it a little bit closer. I don't use the Phantom very frequently. I use the Vandal mostly, but like, notice you can get that spray a lot closer with this gun because it's just it's like literally designed to shoot a further range than this. The Spectre, it's not going to be as easy, right? They're kind of going all over the place. Just overall, the Phantom is basically the same gun, right? But it's just better. It's literally just better. So if you are going to be full buying, I would really recommend just getting used to using the Phantom rather than like kind of limiting yourself to the sense of just using a Spectre, right? If that makes any sense. The guns are, they have a very specific amount of damage, right? So we're going to bring this guy closer. The Marshal, for example, is a good eco buy for the reasoning that if I hit them in the chest and they don't have armor, it's going to kill them. It does 101. It literally does 1 extra damage, so it'll kill them, right? Or like, I guess it could do 100 and it'll still kill them, right? If they do have armor, this isn't going to kill them to the chest. If they even have light armor, this doesn't kill them to the chest. This is like a very specific reason that it's like that, right? That's exactly how they want the game designed. They don't want this to one-hit people with armor. That's why it's an eco buy, right? That's why this Marshal's not amazing past round 1. But you can get the headshots when that's when it's like, it is kind of strong. Because it'll still one hit to the head. But to the chest, it only does 101 damage for a specific reason. Is there a better alternative to buying the Phantom? No. But you can buy a Vandal if you want it instead. The Vandal's cool because it's always a one-hit to headshot, right? So the Vandal I really like because of how consistent it is. When I'm using this gun, I know exactly how much damage it's going to do all of the time, right? This gun will do 156 to the head. If I hit them 3 body shots, I think it's 3 body shots. No, it's 4 body shots. If I hit them 4 body shots, it kills them. Regardless of what armor they have. And then if I one-tap them in the head, it'll always kill them. It'll always do 156, right? That's really cool. I like that consistency. Whereas like the Phantom, it kind of depends on the range, right? So when you get to like really long ranges, the Phantoms are going to have a little bit more drop off. That only does 124 as opposed to the 156 on the Vandal. But that being said, the reason I would direct you in the sense of, or like in the direction of the Phantom is because if you're using the Spectre, you're more like used to probably the fire rate. You're more probably used to like the silenced part of it. Like it just kind of like probably feels better to you in that regard. And I think that the Phantom is probably the closest alternative, right? There's a reason that it's more expensive. The reason that it's more expensive is because of that one-hit headshot, right? And because it's a more reliable gun. It still has 30 rounds in the magazine. It does fire, I think, faster than the Spectre. What is this? 12 rounds per second? This is 13.3. This is 11 rounds. So the Spectre does fire a little bit faster. But the Phantom's just going to be better all around. Better, more consistent, and better at a longer range as well. So that's basically my take on like just the weapons in general, though. Buying a Spectre might feel good, but it's like it's going to hold you back in the long run. It's just not going to teach you good gameplay. The thing that I also like really wanted to drive home in that like discussion there is just that this game isn't like Call of Duty, and I know that there's like a lot of Call of Duty fans in chat who might like get upset by this. I don't know if there actually is. There's probably not. This is a Valorant chat. You know what? I'll ban everybody. This game isn't like Call of Duty where it's like a preference thing. A lot of people are like, well, I prefer the Stinger over the Phantom. It's not really a preference thing. The Phantom is just a better gun, right? You might prefer it, but you're kind of just holding yourself back in that regard. That was a really unfortunate thing that just happened to our friend Kyra right there. Oh my gosh, we're going to go back on that just so we can watch this again, dude.
Get out of my way.
This just goes up and kills him. Oh, dude, everyone feels that. If the other teams are potatoes, it doesn't matter what gun. I disagree. So like the logic right there basically is that if the other team is bad, then I'm able to play like an idiot, or like I'm able to make the wrong decisions, and that's not going to help you improve in the long run, right? That's where a lot of people will run into this situation where it's like I'm playing against bad players and I'm outperforming them, but I'm still an iron. Why am I not improving? Like what is wrong? I can outplay these guys, I can outshoot these guys every time, but I'm still making all the incorrect decisions that are holding me back, right? And I don't know if you were like joking when you say that, or like if you like genuinely mean that, but it's just like the whole mentality where it's like, okay, well these guys are bad, so I can get away with doing bad or making bad plays is never going to help you improve as a player, and it'll probably end up pulling you back in general, right? So a thing that I ran into very frequently in League of Legends for myself personally is that I would do things just because I was better than them, and I would get like punished for it when I actually win against better players. So as I'm climbing, right, I'll run into situations where it's like, okay, I've been playing like this for a while, but these guys are actually good, and I don't know how to play against good players, right? You should be building it up in your mind where it's like, okay, this is how good players will play, so this is how I should play against them, right? And like, as long as you're doing that, you're going to experience like some sort of growth and like improvement. One thing that a lot of people will run into too, that I've noticed, I didn't personally have this, but I remember my brother had this a lot when he played Counter-Strike, is that lower ranked players do a lot of stupid things that'll catch better players off guard sometimes, right? So like you'll expect somebody to do like the complete opposite of what they actually do, because what they do is like a stupid decision. And it's like really weird where it's like those situations where it's like, oh my gosh, he made a dumb decision and it worked out just because I wasn't expecting it. And it's like, that doesn't make it the right decision, right? It doesn't make what they did the right decision necessarily. It means that, hey, you did something stupid, and like you successfully did it, and like that's awesome, it worked out, but you could have gotten severely punished with it, and you probably should have gotten severely punished for it. It's like situations like that. It'll end up holding you back in the long run. You're just taking advantage of the fact that your enemies are bad. You should never expect your enemies to be bad. You should always be playing as if your enemies are good, your opponents. So we are going to talk about round 6-10 and round 8-11. And this just goes kind of into the crutch weapon thing, right? This is 6-10. You end up selling back the Vandal and buying a Spectre when your team is on a full buy. Everybody else on your round or on your team is full buying, and you end up buying. Actually, that guy bought a Stinger. But for the most part, everybody on your team is full buying, and you're buying the Spectre rather than the Vandal, even though you can buy the Vandal. And I'm assuming that this is so next round he can actually buy. He can still be capable of full buying. But it's like if most of your team is already full buying, then this should be the round that you are full buying as well. When you make the decision to buy like a Spectre, right, and everybody else is force buying, it basically puts you in the position where you are the weak link on your team, right? You never want to be the weak link in a situation, especially when you're playing on defense, right? If I'm playing defense and I'm going to be holding this angle right here, it is my job to make sure that they don't push this angle, or that if they do, I'm able to get at least like a kill and like fall back or something like that, right? It's going to be my job to make sure that they don't do that. So if I am the weak link and they end up pushing me and we end up losing this, even though I could have full bot, then that puts me out of like a position where it's like I basically lost I basically placed myself in a weaker position, lost my advantage, and then I let them onto site, and now my team has to struggle with the retake, right? And it's just like you never want to have that weak link where it's like the chance that they could push that weak link and like kill you, and not for like the weak link of like, oh, you're a worse player or like you're playing poorly, just in the sense that like you made a decision that made you weaker for that round, and your team might have lost because of it, right? That's why it's just better to like full buy with your team and coordinate those buys and everything, right? And we're gonna use that to segue into our next replay here. So we're gonna talk about our goals for this replay is how to buy when your team is forcing every round, which happens very frequently at lower ranks. A lot of the times you'll be playing these games and people just want to force buy every single freaking round, dude. And it's just like, what do you do in those situations? And then how do we create optimal engagements during these eco rounds? Because oftentimes if you are going to be ecoing, if you're going to be buying a gun like the Spectre or the Stinger, you're not going to be wanting to take engagements that you're going to probably lose, where you are at a disadvantage, right? So how do we create those advantages? And this is what I talked about when I use the Bucky and stuff like that, or like if I'm deciding to use like a Marshall for a round or something like that. So we're gonna go to round 1-1 over here for our boy Bynes. Here we go. This is what we want. Perfect. Nice. So our boy Bynes, he's buying a Spectre right now. His team had the money to full buy right here. Basically what happened is that they actually won the first round, or the last round. So they lost pistol round, they won the second round, and now this puts them in a position where they actually picked up some eco weapons from the first round. So they picked up like a Stinger and a Spectre, right? And those two who picked those up decided that they wanted to keep this guns, which is not a problem, actually. A lot of the times when I pick up a gun, I like to keep it for the next round as well, just for the reasoning that money is like a very big resource within the game, right? And I don't feel like I should be giving up a gun that I can make use of, right? If I have a $1,600 or credit Spectre, that's like a fair amount of credits, right? That I could save and I could like build up on the next round. So a lot of the times I'll run the Spectre just because it's a decent gun. Now, if you do end up getting later into the game and you're like, you actually do build up like a decent amount of economy, if you're like around like 3 or 4 and you're still using a Stinger and you like have enough money to buy another rifle, you should probably buy the rifle, right? But like if you're going into the third round where you're like your team might be full buying and you have a Spectre, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, right? In this situation, and what they ended up doing is they ended up buying 2 of them bought rifles, the other 2 kept their SMGs, and then Bynes makes the decision to buy a Spectre, which leaves him with 2,100, which means that he can buy full buy next round with these other 2 guys who saved, the guys who have the Stinger and the Spectre, right? Now, if they do lose this round, the 2 guys who bought rifles, it looks like this guy might be able to buy. Oh, he actually sells his rifle back and he buys the Spectre. Cool. So this is a good decision to just buy the Spectre. They do a light buy. Next round, they can force buy, right? Or they can full buy. That works out fine.
Yeah, he's in garage.
I wanted to point out with this smoke right here that he throws, he peeks this before the smoke lands. This is a really dangerous thing that I think a lot of Omens do. Or just like players in general. Like if you're dropping like a brimstone smoke, if this smoke is going out here, you need to wait for the smoke to land. They can peek this immediately. You're on round 1-1. They could have a Vandal. They can one tap you in the head. They did just force buy here. I don't actually know if they do have enough money to have a Vandal, but like hypothetically speaking, if they have a Vandal here and your smoke doesn't land, you could get one tap immediately from this time. Look how much time they had. Like literally, he pushed all the way up here. It takes a second to get up there. He could have easily gotten killed there. But anyway, he comes for the peek here. He pushes up a little bit. Notice the crosshair placement too. He should probably be aiming at like one of the locations people could come from. He's aiming at the box again. He kind of goes for that peek there. But
Phoenix is
Very aggressive right here. This isn't necessarily the best way to clear the site, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about in this replay. Goes for this teleport here. This is a good teleport, by the way, to clear this area. If you already know that there's nobody on the left or right, then you could definitely come up here and you can play this angle. This helps your team out too, because like if they're aiming down mid, now you have a little bit of a crossfire. Like you can kind of swing it.
She's to the right. So.
He gets a good kill there.
Still...
This is an eco round for them too, so or it's a light buy. Sorry. The jet kind of floats in and kill him, which is unfortunate.
Oh, there's go.
Something to point out here though is they do end up losing this round, and like I said, they did keep their eco weapons and stuff. These two guys who bought these phantoms, they're kind of screwed now. Like their economy is like really hurt by that because they decided to force buy. This is a situation where it's like they should have just went with the team, right? And they probably should have just bought the Spectre or like a Stinger or done like a light buy. And then next round they would have like a ton of money to full buy. They could probably full buy 2 rounds in a row at this point. So the decision to buy like a Phantom in this position probably wasn't the best position. They probably should have bought like a Spectre or something like that. But now we go into round 1-2. And this is when I think it comes into a problem. Notice he buys a Spectre again. This is the second round in a row he's bought a Spectre. We're on round 1-2, so this is the 4th round of the game. He's buying another Spectre. In this situation, this is the 4th round of the game, and he still hasn't had a rifle. He hasn't bought a rifle from this position, right? So he's either using this as a crutch weapon, or he's buying the Spectre because his team is not full buying, right? And I think that the latter is probably pretty likely. He's noticing that his team can't full buy, so he's saying, okay, well, I'll just buy a Spectre right now so that I can full buy when they buy. Your team's not always going to be coordinated. It seems like these guys just want to buy whenever they can buy, right? So you can either call out that like, hey, I'm saving this round, or hey, we should buy on this round. Either that, or you could just look at like the majority of your players, and you could buy whenever you feel like it's like most of the players are buying, right? So the last round, maybe that would have been a better decision to buy because you already had 2 people with rifles. Maybe you could have bought a rifle yourself. Maybe you don't die to that jet in that last round, and maybe you end up winning that round, right? That's a possibility. A lot of the times in these lower ranked games, you're never going to have it set up where everybody's going to buy at the same time. And it's just kind of a rough reality, but you kind of just got to roll with what you got. Figure out what teammates are like really open to working together and try to coordinate buys in that regard, right? So you'll notice a lot of the times I'll comment about dangerous decisions, but a lot of the times they actually don't get punished for these dangerous decisions, right? And like I could sit here all day and like point out things that players do and be like, hey, this could be bad, right? But I really love these rounds where it showcases why things are bad decisions, because it shows you just how badly you can actually get punished for doing these things, right? A lot of players make bad decisions and they don't get punished for them, and then it makes them think that like, hey, these bad decisions are okay to make, right? So right here, we talked about how smoking this, he needs to wait for the smoke to land before he peeks this. Again, he's peeking this. They can actually buy an op this round. I think the Phoenix has 7,000 credits. That's easily enough for him to get an op. When he peeks this angle right here, he could be dead right now. He could be dead. And like I said, okay, he could be dead. Who cares, right? He's not dead. But he comes over here to peek mid.
Pick up Spike while you're at it, yeah.
Again, with a Spectre, all of these angles are bad to challenge with the Spectre at this point in time. They can full buy, and he ends up getting taken out, right? And it just, like, I love rounds like this because it just really drives home the point that, like, peeking these angles is very dangerous. He didn't have a chance against this Phoenix with an op. This Phoenix had an op. He was going to one-hit kill him. He had a Spectre, right? So the way that you'll generally deal with ops, right, is you'll use utility and stuff like that by the Phoenix op. Or with the Spectre, how we've talked about how you are at a disadvantage. You're never going to have the perfect encounter against rifles. As we talked about earlier, the Phantom is just a better Spectre. But you can create these better situations, right? By using things like the Omen smokes, right? So if you smoke out the center site, you don't get engaged here. This is a lot of utility used at the beginning of the round, but it might be necessary if you're actually running Spectre and you wanted to push mid here. You can kind of come in here. And if they're not playing in the smoke, or if you want to challenge this, if you wanted to try to push in, you can definitely use your blind. That's the thing that you can do. If they are in the smoke, they have to be standing like really close to you to actually be able to see you in that situation. If you have a Phoenix or something, they can throw their flashbang in there. But there's a lot of different things that you can do within the smoke. If you wanted to play it super aggressive, you can actually even teleport through here, as you've done this a couple times throughout this game. You realize that this is pretty safe. And now you're in a much more optimal position to actually challenge this Phoenix. Now you're like within 20 meters if he is standing in like one of these positions. I wouldn't really want to challenge him from this position because he's still a little bit further away. Now you're going to have your damage fall off kick in. But just as we were pointing out earlier, an engagement that you're really not going to want to take with a Spectre is going to be this one right here, right? If they have a Vandal and you're engaging this person with a Spectre, you're going to lose this engagement every single time. Just on the basis that their gun is going to one-hit you to the head, and your gun will take 3 hits to kill them from this distance, right? This is just not going to be a good engagement for you. And it's just situations like that where it's like, okay, what could we have done better? Well, rather than pushing from this position, right? Here's another one that I use frequently, is I'll come over here, And now you only need to use one smoke to push up here, right? Because you can smoke this position. And unless they're going to aggressively push catwalk, which is oftentimes like not something that they'll do, they'll oftentimes just watch this angle right here. You can actually push up this entire way. You have the middle smoked, right? They're not going to be pushing you from middle. And you can come over here, and you can actually like swing this guy, right? And you might be able to get a kill on this guy in this regard. You could even use your blind in this situation, so you can get a little bit more of an advantage. You want to use your utility when you have a Spectre, or when you have an eco weapon, to get closer to the target so you can get the optimal engagement that you want. Same thing with a Bucky, right? If I have a Bucky, I'm not going to go middle. This isn't going to be an engagement I'm going to take. I'm never going to challenge this with a Bucky, right? The same thing should go if you have a Stinger, right? I should never try to challenge an actual rifle in the middle of the map with a Stinger. That's just not something that I want to do, right? Instead, you'll take your Bucky, like common sense, you have a shotgun, right? You'll go to something like this, right? Maybe you bait this orb. Maybe you're playing like a close angle like this. Maybe you think that they might be playing on the edge right there. The Bucky is much more likely to kill somebody from this distance than it's going to be to kill somebody from like mid, right? Or maybe you'll play tunnels, right? You're using these eco weapons in a way that is more optimal for them. You're trying to create those engagements where like you can actually get a kill with these weapons rather than challenging somebody at a range where it's just going to get you killed, right? There are things that you can do on these eco buys. If you want to force buy, that's awesome. But don't be taking engagements that you're just not going to win for like literally the reason that you have like the gun, right? That's why a lot of the times when I buy Sheriff too, this is what I talked about. Sheriff beyond like 30 meters or whatever it is. Yeah, Sheriff beyond 30 meters is not going to one hit to the head, right? So at this range right here, it's not going to kill them. Even if I hit him in the head, that's not going to kill the target. They're just too far away. If they're closer in like this area, I might. But like if I'm aiming at this guy down there, that's not going to kill them, right? Just as if I peek them down here. It doesn't matter if I land the headshot or not. It's not going to kill them. So if I have a Sheriff, I probably shouldn't peek this angle. Now this is contrary to a Deagle, I think, in Counter-Strike, which is where a lot of people run into confusion. The Deagle in Counter-Strike will one hit at pretty much every range. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if it hit them in the head, I think it would one hit them from any range. But when you're using a Sheriff, it doesn't. So like I might have like that tendency built up where it's like, okay, well I can peek this and I can like get away with it. And maybe you can get away with it in some situations, but you're going to be a lot better off taking the Sheriff to a position like this where it's like within 30 meters. If I one tap somebody in the head right there, I can actually kill them. That's actually a thing that I can do in this position, right? I don't want to go peek them in a place where it's not going to kill them, where I have the disadvantage, right? You're always going to have the disadvantage. I do want to clarify that. When you're using an eco weapon, you're always going to have the disadvantage over a Phantom or an Op or a Vandal. But you want to create the situation where you at least have enough of a chance, like a fighting chance, right? Because there are going to be a lot of situations where you just don't have the chance. You're just not going to win that engagement. So I also do want to comment. So when I was talking about how smoking arches right here, when you smoke this, it can be really dangerous to push into a smoke, especially if somebody's playing with Omen smokes, which is something that I do very frequently. It's not always the best decision to push into here. That being said, just having the smoke down gives your team a lot more control in middle. It gives you a lot more things that you can do. You can push up right here, right? And you can actually just wait for the smoke to fade, and then you can kind of like get an angle like this, right? You can see if anybody's playing around here, and this just gives you the capability to push up just a little bit more. You can kind of like inch it forward with your smokes. So like you'll place your first smoke, and then maybe you can like place that one, and now you can kind of like, you can clear this area and not have to worry about them peeking you from there. So if anybody's playing like right here, maybe you deal with them that way. You have time throughout your rounds, right? These smokes do refresh. They last for 15 seconds, which is not a crazy amount of time. And the round is all, like a minute 40, right? You have time to like do these things. You have time to kind of inch forward in middle and like just like gain some more ground. But you're not going to be able to do that if you kind of just like swing out here against an op and like you die them, right? It's okay to use a smoke here and like not push it. This will just give you a little bit more bearing on mid. And now they actually don't know what's going on here. You could be pushing up catwalk and getting ready to go A. That's something that you could do. That's what I was talking about earlier. This is something that I do very frequently. And you could challenge it in this way. Or like when you smoke off catwalk, same thing goes, right? They don't know what's going on like over on like this side here. Like they don't have the information from catwalk, these people like in this area. And granted, you can watch this from like over here, or you can watch this from over here, but you do have to kind of like challenge these people. And this isn't exactly the safest position for me to be in as a defender. Like right here, where do I fall back to at this position, right? I don't fall back anywhere. If this person peeks me, I have to engage this person. I have to. Like I don't have any cover from this point. This isn't the most optimal spot for me to play. So a lot of the times you'll see people play back like right here. They'll wait for people to kind of peek out here. They'll play like over here, where they'll wait for somebody to peek out over here on catwalk. They won't see what's going on over here on the left. They won't see what's going on over here on the right all the time. Every now and then they will. Sometimes you'll see people push up right here and they want to like play over here in the corner on these arches. Now they have cover. From this position, they'll have cover, right? But nobody's going to be like playing like right here, right? This is such an awkward spot. And also keep in mind the gate in middle spawns like right here, like right on the top of the stairs. So like I can hold this spot and I can hold like this spot. But like these, like I said, this isn't an optimal spot. So I have to like kind of push up here at the beginning of the round. Aside from that, though, this will probably be uploaded to YouTube. I'll probably go through and edit it. So if you guys enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel down below. Like the video. Follow us on Twitch. We're streaming right now. Look at all the awesome people in chat. I freaking love your guys' faces. And join the Discord. Look at all those things I just named off. It's like the first time I haven't done this. I don't know what I'm talking about, dude. Also, this is our merch too. If anybody wanted to like check out King merch, we got like the Omen t-shirt and stuff. I think it looks pretty cool. I think it turned out pretty well. So you can check that out. I'll probably link it or something in the description. I freaking love you guys. I could stand up. It's like a long shirt. Oh my god, my mic cord is like pulled. It's kind of cool. I don't know. I think it looks all right. It's like an Omen TP basically. It's very quality material too.